and welcome to AleksConnects Creative Sandbox. My name is Alex, and let's continue our further project Dreamers vs Transformers. Today was a long day, so let's begin or continue this day. Because, yes, right now in Moscow, Russia is 12 a.m. Yes, so let's just slowly start. Let's just launch games, see what we have, or games? No, programs. So we'll continue to work on our Fanart project, Angry Birds versus Transformers. For the most part, this project is a way for me to get needed experience, because again, I don't have that much of experience, and what this allows me to do to get needed experience. Okay, let's hope my stylus is going to work, because yesterday it wasn't the case. We had to reboot a PC computer. By the way, I then remembered that in order to solve a problem with the stylus not working and like the need to reboot your PC, it's not always a so you can actually work with this by just going into the device manager and just basically enabling your tablet or disabling, then enable it again and it should work. It kind of works the same as reboot, but if not, you probably should to reboot. So yeah, let's just continue. Today's session is going to be a 2-hour session, and we will continue to work with our final line art. Okay, so previously we worked for the most part on cloth, on tablecloth, so these are our construction lines for the cloth, how it works, how we actually measured all these sizes, and what was the base and how this base were changed. So basically that. And let's continue next. What we need to do next. So the next thing probably going to be characters, because they're the most important thing, and the reason why I kind of decided to draw tablecloth first is probably because I just thought that it's something that I definitely need to solve first. So now we have a choice where to go from here. Either we will go into draw a characters, which kind of already started from this part, or the accessories on the table. But the problem with the accessories, we need to design them like from the ground up, because they're not designed yet. I just know where they're going to be placed, and what type of subjects are going to be used in here, but for the most part I don't have a clue how they're going to look in terms of the design, and it's kind of important. And I think I could design them first and then go into characters, but I think it's going to be much easier to design all these elements on the table when we're actually going to finish with characters. And as I said previously, usually if you don't know what to where to go first, choose from the standpoint of the importance. So what's the most important thing in your work, and do this, because if you will spend time on it, and for instance the deadline is going to be super close, you're still going to know that you finished the important stuff, and the unimportant stuff could be just dropped off or slightly faked, whatever. So you can't fake the important stuff, you need to work on it. So that's probably the reason why we need to choose something that has big importance. But either way, I think we will manage to do things the way we should. Whew. So yeah, let's just start with characters, I guess. So what information we need to know about characters before starting to work with them, or in much more subtle way? Because again, we have a basic information about the characters, but it's definitely not enough, because now we need to put more details to make them better. So let's see what information we need for that. So we have our material things and the information what we need to design. Again, for the most part, we don't need to design our characters, but I kind of want to make them a little bit better, because they're not look that good. So for the most part, for characters, we're going to use this information. So let's make it big. Let's even probably make it full screen. Let's try that. Oh my goodness. Okay. So we chose the main quality of a character, and we tried to showcase the essence of this quality through the gesture, feel, and basic design. And it was important at the beginning stages, and it's even more important right now, because before that we didn't work with subtleties. We worked for the most part with the big gestures that from the get-go could tell us a particular quality or feel, or basically motion. Right now, since we have more information to work with in terms of the pixels, because again, before we worked with less pixels than now, in a small scale, and now by putting our work into the big scale, we kind of need to still keep in mind all these elements and make them even better. So before that, we didn't had that much, I don't know how to properly say it. We didn't have that much luxury in terms of like implementing small details, because again, it was a small scale work. Now, since it's a big scale, we need to think about small elements because they're going to be visible, and now we can play with them, because before that we could just fake them to make good from far. But right now we need to work with them too, and we need to use every possibility to increase the likeness of the character, to increase basically to increase everything for the character. Oh, come on. So yeah, definitely, actually by mistake opened references, but we're definitely going to use them. So yeah, we're going to use these references that we gathered from the online sources. We have everything that we need in here. We have gestures, we have behavior, dynamic, so for the most part, if I'm going to work with the character, know that I'm looking at these references to at least to analyze the patterns for their particular behavior, and try to implement these patterns into a specific character, because these patterns are going to be something that actually will make this character, or will make this character. the grumpiness of Red, the craziness of Chuck, the freedom of Bubbles, so somewhat like, I don't know, hesitation in Bomb, because again he always afraid that he's going to blow up. So all these qualities we need to think about, and most of them are perfectly represented by the artists who created these things, and the only thing that we need to do is just basically analyze them and put them in our work, either the same way or the better way. But again, we don't have a specific reference for the poses that we have in our illustration, but again, as artists we need to work with everything that we have. And although we don't have that much information, I still will use the particular elements to implement them into my work. So yeah, basically just know that I'm going to use these references, and also the other chunk of references that we're going to use, of course, are on Pinterest. Let's just open Pinterest too. Opened. And again, for the Pinterest is the same. Poses, particular gestures, the patterns. For instance, Red is constantly making his wings, putting one wing on top of another by stating that, I don't know, this is his thing, and we of course decided to use it in our illustration to make things a little bit more clear. Right here too. I will start with Red, and then we'll continue to the other characters. And again here, the look that we could implement in our pose, the look of, I don't know, uneasiness, or so yeah, all these elements are for the most part in references. We just need to use them properly. So let's do that. Oh, snap. Sorry about that. So first I want to try a reference that I'm going to use specifically. Actually, most of the references that I'm going to use probably they're in Pinterest. On Pinterest, I don't have that many appropriate references for okay. So first I think we will start with silhouette, as we started with the silhouette before. So we are going to draw on the character layer. Okay, we need to do this and then this. Good. Actually, he's almost round in this area. We could use this one too. How round he is though. No, let's just try to do it by hand. We have the ability to rotate canvas, so why not? Still want to stay close to what I drew before, but and of course we need to suggest that he is tilting his head a little bit in here. So ideally this part of the face, it's pretty flat like this, but we need to suggest that it goes in here. Actually, it's not the part of his body. His body probably goes somewhere in here. This is a part of his leg. Slightly going to see it. So the hardest part is to work on the inner parts, of course, but before, let's just try to properly showcase the overall shape. Just try to find a center line. Could be somewhere in here. These lines are just constructional, like for me to analyze this form a little bit better. Well, again, the problem, we didn't spend that much time to actually analyze its form, so it's like maybe we should. Because let's, for instance, to analyze the Transformers form, we dive into complete sculpting. For them, it's not necessary. We could like just draw them or just paint over them and try to analyze their form. But for the most part, they have pretty simple form. Just a round shape. Okay, not just a round shape, but pretty round shape. which becomes slightly. So this is the part where the hand starts. No, actually hand starts a little bit higher. Not the hand, but like the wing. Somewhere in here, where the beak is. And if it is the case, okay, let's start with things that I definitely know how to look, and then we will work on things that I'm struggling with. Okay, first the eyes. Eyes definitely need to be slightly bigger because I make them kind of small. Again, as I said before, in these stages there's going to be a lot of experimentation. Like, the main thing, or even if you know how things are going to look on the sketch, when we go into the final, they will completely change in the better. Definitely need to think. Okay, this eyebrow actually needs to be slightly lifted. So it's going to be kind of accentuate the anger look. This thing will work for the silhouette. Let's try to figure out where he's going to look. I am actually prepared for the fact that this could look even worse, that it already looked at like works on my sketch, because again, going into the next stage, it's always a harder thing to properly make. Yeah, it's actually going to look even more generic, because like before that it kind of looks pretty dynamic, but we didn't have enough information. It's just illusion that it looks dynamic, but when we are going to dive into the details, the things that not going to work will be visible right away. So we need to kind of replay. And yep, let's continue. So for some reason OBS crashed. I don't know why. Let's hope it's not going to crash the second time. Probably the reason why it's crashed was like after I'll get into selection, it's right away crashed for some reason. I don't know. Didn't supposed to crash though, but for some reason crashed. So our timer is still ticking, everything's still working. Okay, just continue and let's hope that it's not going to crash anytime soon. We need to be careful with it. So it's crashed when I tried to work with the selection with the transform tool. So yeah, playing with proportions is definitely the thing that we need to do, because at this point we need to understand how proportions are going to affect our character, and they will. What the heck? Why stream is not refreshing? Oh, wait a sec. We need to refresh things. And like talking about psychology, so right now I'm pretty close to feeling pretty, like, I don't know, not very good, because whatever, no matter what I'm going to do at this point, it's going to be go through a lot of experimentation. Although we kind of have almost all information that we need, it's still not enough to work with the smallest details, because we have again, if we would work with something like just a reference that we just could draw from, but since we're trying to create our own expression for this character in a different in a different from different point of view, it will make things slightly stranger. So let's make it, let's just try to put some type of an expression, like he's actually pretty annoyed. Usually when we have eyes, it's a little bit easier to work with the expression, because the eyes are kind of leading the expression for the most part. So let's try to do that. Make the eyes visible. It's a line art. We can't make them black. Let's just stay. Does it look exactly in here? Yep. So it's like, I don't know, I need to either slightly this thing is actually pretty high. It's almost under the eyes. For the beak not to touch the eyes, eyes are slightly shaped a little bit differently. Oh, this is too high. Something. Again, a lot of experimentation, a lot of redrawings, and the same. And again, since characters are our most important thing at this point, the more time we will put in them, the better they will look. So it's actually something that if we spend too much time on it, it will benefit us. It's like this part is to be smaller. And there's going to be actually someone here. Yeah, this beak is not easy thing to properly establish, because it's going to look silly. Trying to look at reference and things look decent. But I guess for that we need to spend more time. No, it doesn't look natural. Like, the look that I wanna actually find for it is just a natural look, and it's not an easy thing to do. So usually if you're struggling with the natural look, it means that you have problems either with proportions, usually with proportions, because like I definitely understand that proportions for this one is the wrong one, because again we need to apply a general rule of thumb that the center of the eye is going to be the place where the beak is going to end. So let's just delete it. Can I apply this rule? So let's just try to assume that beak has to go in here and somewhere in here. Also, it could be pretty low positioned. Usually if you put a shape and shape works, that means that just suggesting a form, it will work too. The rest is just subtleties. Okay, I think this is, it looks like more like he's upset. So these things needs to be a little bit higher. I don't think that we need to add those, although we could. The eyelashes. I don't know if I need to erase them this way, like permanently, or use actual masks to do that. Something that Okay, the bottom beak needs to be smaller, and we need to suggest that. Probably even more smaller. Because again, when it comes down to proportions, this is actually the part of the design. Again, beak is pretty complex form. Like, it's pretty hard to make beak look natural, because what is the natural look for the beak? It's not human, but it needs to represent human emotions, and probably much easier would be to work with the real lips than with this, for me at least. It kind of creates Okay, let's save this one for now. Okay, so again, continue. What we have is red is angry. Gesture has to be tense. But basically, he needs to represent tension with everything regarding his body, including face. Dynamic for tension looks could it look like tension? Or to make it more tense, we need to I like this one better. Okay, the placement of this eye probably creates a problem. Have to be slightly closer. but not super close though. Yeah, I got back to whatever it was though. Because this part of the beak has to kind of overlap with the I think if I'm not going to like manage to work with the line, again, I don't have that much experience with working with line, but if I would probably draw it in or paint it, I could actually find the proper way, because when you're working with line and you always forgetting about the form that represents this line, and every line that you put in, you need to put in terms of the what type of form this line represents. You need to understand the shape of it. You need to understand how these lines are like creating the wireframe, and it's much easier to do when you're working with just lighting with painting, because this is one of the reasons why I'm not that like and I lost my thought. It's one of the reasons why I'm not that confident in line. For me, it's a lot of limitations, and be super close. No, it's actually pretty high. Yeah, beak is super uncomfortable thing to draw. Like, actually, it throws me off a lot. Like, it's hard to create a good look for the beak. In almost every position and in almost everything that you put your the big beak in, it doesn't look well. And it's hard to actually depict your particular emotions with it. Because again, there's no human representation how beaks has to behave in order to portray these emotions. And birds, of course, don't have in reality beaks that could morph and create human emotions. They are just opening and closing it. And although we have some type of example how these beaks could behave in here, but it's kind of not enough still, because there's no pattern in here. There's just a random shapes and proportions for these shapes that kind of keep overall basic proportions kind of the same, and creating slight variations for them in terms of expressions to work. So there's stretching. So shapes are constantly changing. So right here, for instance, beak looks awful. And not every expression is going to look good. And not every expressionless face is going to look good. So right here, beak is completely like shifted, like almost to the right and like almost inside. It doesn't look good, but it does its job. Maybe I'm wrong with the eyes, but I don't think so though. Eyes kind of work fine. Either way, let's save. I don't know, we could try and work with the different variations of it. So let's try to go into transform and try to liquefy it. Build up. This one actually has more emotions than previous one. Maybe we could keep it though. No, that actually looks pretty cool. So like he's annoyed by the bomb, or just feels somewhat tense and angry towards him. Try to make eyebrows less straight by creating a slight depiction of. Actually, this eyebrow has to be smaller. Okay, this one seems at least like decent. There are some things that I don't like about it, but terms of like the emotion and expression itself, maybe we could work with eyebrows to make things a little bit more interesting, but aside of our eyebrows, I kind of like how things look. Let's try to... oh snap, yeah. So definitely eyebrows has to be slightly lower. And a little bit in here. Before, after, before, after. Let's get rid of the selection, display selection to see the difference. So, before, after. So again, like, this looks not that tense. It's like in between expression. It looks like in between expression, but this one looks more like the actual expression, that like finished one, or the extreme one, not the in between expression. Let's get back our selection. Yeah, so I like how this eye looks, but this eye, it's kind of, we need to create a, yeah, I need to lift it up a little bit higher. Then draw the rest of the eye. Let's try this and see how it's going to look. It's like he's crazy. Actually, the eye looks pretty strange. Nope. We don't want for red to look crazy. We need a subtle, angry look. This is foreshortening for this eye. This part needs to be lower. For our sketch. And of course, this expression will help us to properly depict the behavior for the wings. So I will keep this expression for now. Maybe I will change something later, but I kind of like how it looks now. It has the thing that Sketch has. So again, Sketch actually has this dynamic, the same kind of here, but in much more proportionally close to the red. It's pretty far from the actual red face proportions. Like for instance, his brows are probably super big. We need to make them smaller. Actually make them much larger than they're supposed to be, probably. let's just try to make them smaller. And see how it's going to look with the smaller brows. Eyebrows. Yeah, with smaller brows, he kind of looks a little bit better. Because again, big eyebrows are too big. It's like they're overpowering. They're almost the same size as the eyes. So it's not the case. They have to be smaller than eyes. And now I have a problem that beak seems too small. Again, some references for him kind of look, the beak looks small. In some references, beak looks bigger, and it's pretty hard to find some in between elements. Usually when we are actually angry, our mouth changes and actually becomes smaller. So let's assume that because he's angry, his mouth just became smaller, or his beak became smaller as the part of the expression. Since we kind of transformed it, it's lost his. It's like this beak is almost looking at the side. Nope. That actually works. Yeah, this one better. Okay, good. We made eyebrows smaller. By the way, I think we will see the part of a yeah, eyelids are actually going to be present. So the fact that eyelids, by adding eyelids, we now he doesn't look crazy. He just looks annoyed. Yeah, eyelids are definitely have to be here. Just make them a little bit better represented. Okay, good. Oh, good. Actually, no, I kind of like how it looks. Even better. Cool. He's kind of annoyed. He doesn't like what he's seeing. Yep. Okay, this thing closer to here, a little bit smaller. The same for this one. Smaller in here. It will make eyes a little bit bigger. I think it's clear that he is looking at bomb, because it works if it's mirrored and it works if it's in normal state. We don't see the break, like the broken proportions or something like this. Of course they're probably broken, but we're not seeing this. It's just like I don't know, partially covered. Cool. So, okay. This part needs to be smaller in here, and then it just becomes bigger like feathers, because it's just the feathers. Probably not going to see it. There's a couple of feathers. We could actually depict some extension for these feathers in here to make silhouette a little bit better or diverse. Although usually this feather is barely visible, and usually it's under this feather. They kind of complement each other. This one actually probably would be a better choice. And of course there is a center. Okay, the hardest thing now. Actually, probably have to go in a small break. Okay, let's take a quick break, and after that we will continue with the hands or the wings, which definitely going to be super hard thing to do. Let's save. Get rid of the sketch. Kinda works. And of course, after we will get rid of all these lines that kind of intersecting with it, it will look probably even better, but not going to yet. The hardest thing is going to be its wings and how they're properly going to create a specific feeling. I definitely will make them not as flat as here. Definitely will probably make better gestures for the wings by cross hatching them like this, and slightly will change things. So it's not going to be just a straight line or something like in here. So yeah, after a quick break, we will be back and we will continue to create this thing. Yep. So, break. And I'm super back. Super back. Let's continue. Let's continue. Okay. I think after like a big break, probably a day break, I probably will think that the face looks not that good. But again, I think in order to master beak expressions, you need to draw more than one beak. Yeah, so if it's not going to look perfect, it's not a problem. Yeah, I'm not going to stress about it that much. So now let's try to analyze where the placement of the hand, but let's call it a hand. Let's be honest, it's a hand. Actually placed. It's actually placed somewhere where at the middle of the beak. So, or at the bottom of the beak, somewhere in here. And since our beak is pretty condensed, the or changed, wing has to start here. It's pretty hard when you don't have actually beak covers this part, so beak probably will be somewhere in there. And we'll go in here. Let's assume that something like this. It actually makes us to place cup a little bit higher. It's probably completely fine. Pretty long beak if yeah, it actually has to be closer. It can't be that long. When he's tried to put these beaks together, they definitely need to be closer. Still staying in this line. When we're putting our hands together, of course, clavicles are moving. For the beaks, or for the wings, probably something similar. The anatomy of the bird. But again, if it was a real bird, but it's a cartoon bird, it's kind of based on the real bird, of course. I think when they created this one, they thought about the movements. So yeah, let's just find the specific reference when he's crossing his hands. This definitely will benefit. Wings are actually pretty big. At the beginning, they kind of stay almost consistent. Although ideally, at the beginning they have to be smaller and then they need to become bigger. We could redesign things, of course. So it's not necessarily that we need to stay exactly like the initial design. If something doesn't seem right to us, we could make it on our own, but it has to work and not be too far from what the original design has. Okay, so let's think. Okay, so this wing needs to be shorter. And this wing is going to hold a cup of tea. And this wing here is going to go under. That doesn't look natural at all. Because again, like, we need to consider their form. They're not just flat, they have form. And this is, of course, make things differently. Actually, by representing them with a form, it kind of looks a little bit better. But still, there's no dynamic in there. How we could create a dynamic? The first way is to make this part smaller. Make this part bigger. Okay, where are accessories content? No, we need to go with accessories and actually try to draw a cup, because without a cup, we need to understand what subject, or at this point object, our character is holding. Just draw a slight representation of the cup. I don't think that it's going to be that type of cup. It's going to be a regular one. With the thing inside. Probably it needs to be smaller. Yep, something like this. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. Actually, kind of made sense in a sketch. I don't know. Let's redraw everything. Let's start from the place that he is holding a cup. So cup holder is pretty small. It's not that easy to hold it when you're a bird. Definitely will create problems for you. And also the gesture for the cup, we could actually change it. Like make it slightly tilted. Like he's almost giving up on, I don't know. All the tension has to go. He's so tense that he's not like realizing the position for his cup. It could be the case. Cup is kind of tilted slightly. Okay, so now how he's going to hold this cup is definitely oh, this board has to go right here. This is going to hold a cup, and this part is just going to act like a actually probably will end in here. Okay. Kind of works. what else? So, and now we need to figure out how to properly put the second wing and make it intersect with this one. Not going to reach too far. It's probably going to maximum reach this. So there's a lot of overlapping. Let's create an additional layer for testing, and when we actually will figure out the final look, I will apply it, but for now it's just some type of an experimentation. Let's assume that it's here. Closer. And the other one is coming from here through the cup. The problem is, like, I can't do this. No matter how would I want to, it doesn't look, it's probably not going to look right. No, it's actually going to look right, but it's not going to make any sense. Because it's harder to hold a cup with the hand on which you're putting the other one. So like, but if you do this, maybe it could work actually. Yeah, I think we have to go with this one because it's kind of works. Let's change to white and see. It's going to look good. Probably will keep it. And actually similar to what I wanted in the sketch. Because if we're going to see in sketch, it's almost similar. It looks similar. So I think we could go with this. The only thing that we need to figure out is to make it look good. Because right now it doesn't look good at all. Considering the length of these wings. Okay. Also, to make it a little bit more human-like, I think we could suggest a elbow areas. Could work. Okay, this is for a different layer. Okay, we have about 20 minutes left, I think. Yes, so probably not going to finish this today. Oh, really? So he actually has a feathers in here too? I actually didn't saw it before. because in almost all his photos they're not present, but he actually has. It's probably every character. I'm going through references again, just see what we could find. I think it's appropriate that I spend a lot of time on making these sketches, and even more time I will spend to create a final line art. Because again, this is a final look. We need to actually go into the final look of illustration, and we need to make sure that it's going to look good. And for that, of course, we need to spend a lot of time, so it's not something that it's not a bad thing. These elbows, no. We will suggest them, they're going to be slightly visible. Because for the most part, Angry Birds are round, so if we're going to create some type of thing like this, it's just going to look out of the design. Although we have some straight angles in here, or sharp angles, but okay, let's place the steel a little bit closer. So this thing is going to be slightly present in here. It's not going to. Going to partially visible in here. Okay, this one kind of low, kind of works. Kinda works. Huh? I forgot that we actually used the white in here. Oh, come on. Okay, let's make them as one. It's like fingers, but it's not. But they kind of represent the placement for them slightly. Also, these things have only 3 fingers, so we need to keep it in mind. Kind of works fine. So we could get rid of this line. Oh, it needs to be closer. Perhaps somewhere in here. I know, birds holding a teacups, it's not something that they could do, so it's not going to be an easy thing to... Also the tiny teacups. Accessories. No, I don't think it doesn't. Maybe it needs to be like this, because it's gonna have to go with the same dynamic. If not, it's just going to lose this line. Oh, this line kind of has to create a continuation of some kind. That's why it doesn't work. Okay, this is better. Okay, we could make this one a little bit bigger though. Okay, this one look a little bit bigger, better. A little bit better. And the T in the teacup actually is going to tell the different story of the gravity. Gravity in here is going to be pretty close to spilling this tea on the character itself, so. Cool. Again, I will design cups later. Right now it's just the regular look. But we need them at this point to just properly depict where things are connected, etc. So, because we have interaction in our hands, so, and we need to properly depict this interaction. Okay. It actually, like, I actually thought that this cup is going to be super extended from the body, but apparently we can't do this because we can't create that long of a wings. It's just not realistic. They have to be a little bit shorter. Now they actually seem too short. No, they actually short. That's short. We could make these things a little bit bigger, I think. Like in some places, I think they have to be bigger in here. This thing could be bigger. Whew. Yeah, it's back and forth. There's nothing to talk about because for the most part, just trying to draw things and find the best way for it to look, because this is what I talked about, why we had to do all these things beforehand, because we still have a lot of things and a lot of problems to solve at these stages. And like from one part it seemed like we got everything that we need at one point, but then we're pretty fast starting to realize that it's not the case. Like it seemed like, okay, we have a sketch, that's it, we don't need anything else, we just need to draw on top of the sketch and make it slightly better. But nope, sketch was only the destination, and now in final thing we need to make things actually look better. And that's what I talked about, like it's pretty easy for the final sketch to lose this dynamic that sketch had. Like for instance, it's still, for the sketch it has a little bit, like it has this dynamic that, for instance, my drawing still doesn't have. It's like I lost it. Because when you're trying to draw things accurately, you can't help it, but you will lose some dynamic. One way to keep the dynamic alive is to tilt your face properties. It actually could work. Because it definitely seems like he's looking at... It's still kind of tilted if we're going to see how this line, how these lines are represented. It's still tilted, but we could go even more, express it even further. Oh, this thing is apart. This actually looks even cooler. Okay, let's go through references in final and just find place that this type of angle could result in this type of foreshortening. No, but actually we're still going to see a part of the body, so it can't be this extreme. We're still going to see this part of the body, because again our character is kind of round. We're not going to lose these elements, definitely. Okay, good. Yeah, I think on that note we will slowly end the session, because for the most part we'll slowly end the session. That, yeah, definitely. Because I kind of like how it looks at this point, but maybe after a break we could look at this a little bit differently and change things. So far it looks fine. Just put final elements. By the way, we could create a layer that could help us to get rid of the lines behind by painting on top of them with white. Let's do that, because I kind of want to see what Oh, it needs to be on the bottom. Just want to see how things are going to look without intersecting lines. Okay. Okay. Again, not ideal, but for this particular point, for the line art, it kind of works. And again, this line art is not supposed to give us shape information or the form information. These type of line art right here, if we could represent shape with the line as we did for the table, of course we will do that. But if there's no design elements that could help us to represent these, the only purpose for lines at this point is to create a different areas that we are going to fill with paint. That's it. It's the whole thing. Let's clean up things a bit. Oh no. Clean up. And thank you for the follow, Arinathos. Let's hope that I read it well. Very much appreciated. So yeah, we're almost at the end. Again, for the most part, I think things are going to work. There's still a lot of work to make this look hesitant and so somewhat angry, but I think at the end we will manage to do so. Yeah, let's just go through the quick cleanup and then we will end the session. Because I have to go to sleep. It's already 2 AM in here. Probably this part could be... It's going to be hard, not easy to suggest that he's holding a cup with the wing, but I will do my best. Again, the most problems we're going to solve in rendering stages. So yeah, that's what I talked about. The things that we're not going to solve in line will be solved in rendering. So line, just for us at this point, a way to create a separations for filling it with paint. That's kind of it. I still don't like it that much, so still a lot of work needs to be done to make it a little bit more gesture-ish or dynamic. Maybe after I will go through the rendering, it will look better. It has to be, I think. But general things kind of work. I don't know when we will go next. In the next session, I think tomorrow we either start with a different character, or I will continue to work with this one and just make it a little bit better. But for the most part, all details that this character has in terms of like the things that we could depict with the different values and colors. It already has them. We still need to figure out the placement for his belly, which is definitely going to be present, and is going to be a different color, or yes, a different color. I will suggest the placement for it, but the area with a different color is probably too high. And a couple of references actually shows that he has some type of a, I don't know, thing, but although it's not going to look good, so we probably will discard it, or I don't know, definitely something to think about. So yeah, I guess on that note we will slowly end the session. With a clear mind, tomorrow we will continue. Let's save. Yeah, for the most part this is kind of it. So let's just go through again. In terms of the design and materials, we have all information that we need. In terms of like storytelling and mood, we have everything that we need. We have basic value range, we have the direction for our spotlight, we have our basic sketches, the color sketch and the value sketch, so as the local value representation and local colors representation, and of course we have our sketch that we're using and our composition thing. And we need to implement them all throughout the stage. Again, as I said before, it's pretty hard to maintain the same visual look for the final as it's depicted in a sketch. You need more experience probably to not lose dynamic in transition. And the reason why this could look more dynamic, although it looks horrible, but it has a little bit more dynamic because we had less information to work with and there's a lot of just suggestions. As for this one, we have more information to work with, big scale, and now we're not suggesting, we're actually putting these things to reality. Yeah, I'm kind of tired, so let's just, again, save, close. So yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for being here, have a nice day or night, and see you in the next session. Bye bye.